Thank you. Welcome. I'm Father Mitch Pacwa. Welcome to EWTN Live, where we bring you guests from all over the world. We have a great guest tonight, Dr. Ray Guarendi himself. He has helped many families over the years. He's a clinical psychologist and a father of 10 children. And he's written a brand new book that combines the best of modern psychology with sound spiritual advice. But before we talk about families with Dr. Ray, we have a couple things we want to get to. First, it is the solemnity of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary into heaven, body and soul. This is a great celebration of this feast of Our Lady, and I preached last night and this morning how we say in the Hail Holy Queen that Our Lady is our life, our sweetness, and our hope. The reason she's our hope is because her Assumption points out the hope that we have, that we too will be raised from the dead and will be in heaven as well. And also, it is the anniversary of EWTN. Now, we've been around, I guess, 37 years? Mm-hmm. 37 years. So it's, yeah, because I'm making shows here at 34. Mm-hmm. So it's adding up. But we had a great little celebration today with blessing the place and bringing the Blessed Sacrament in a procession through it. And we also have an EWTN update. I want to welcome EWTN's Vice President of Programming and Production, Mr. Peter Gagnon, to talk about the World Meeting of Families that's happening next week in Ireland. Peter, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Thank you for having me back on.
And you're going to be there in Ireland for that?
I will be there in Ireland for that. So as we do, we cover, all the major church events, and we think it's important for us to be at these events, particularly to this one World Meeting of Families, to stand up for our family and to really tell the truth of the stories that the church is presenting there, because sometimes, the secular media will take a soundbite or something and run with it. So we want to be there to present what the beauty of church teaching regarding family and life. So I think we have a little promo that we might show here for that.
Yeah, we've got the clip ready.
This August, discover the universal bond that connects us all, family. EWTN takes you to Dublin, where young and old gather to celebrate the World Meeting of Families 2018. EWTN will be there with a daily wrap-up of this 6-day event that honors the importance of family as the domestic church. Faithful Catholics from around the globe will be joined in prayer, worship, and powerful catechesis in the land of St. Patrick. And Pope Francis will conclude the celebration with his apostolic visit to Ireland. Go to EWTN.com/WMOF for all the latest news and program schedules. The World Meeting of Families 2018 from Dublin, Ireland, August 21st through 26th, here on the Global Catholic Network, EWTN.
So our coverage will start Tuesday with a preview show special. Doug Heck and Jonette Benkovic will be in our studios here covering it, but on the ground there we'll have Father John Paul and Tracy Harkin, who's part of EWTN Ireland for us. So we'll have commentary and insights, so people should really tune into that. And then I also want to talk about some of the changes that are going to happen in September. A lot of times we'll do our major programming changes in September and March. And this September, recently we kind of revamped Sunday Night Prime with the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, and that was very popular. In a segment within that, we took clips from Father Groeschel. And people were just really wanting to have more of Father Groeschel, but they also love the Friars. So we're going to give the best of both worlds. We're going to bring back Father Groeschel to a half-hour weekly segment called Sunday Best. So that'll be with Father, so people are going to look for that in September. And then the Friars are going to be back with a series we're calling Icons, and we'll expand the format of that show and let them really present their popular style that people have really grown to love. So
I think we have another clip ready for that too.
Okay.
The Christian faith is a religion filled with mystery.
For decades, his iconic presence has been a beacon of hope to EWTN viewers. Unforgettable wisdom that has shaped generations of future saints.
what a wonderful, marvelous thing it is to come to believe in God.
His is an unapologetic legacy to the enduring truth of the Church. Sunday Best with Father Benedict Groeschel on the Global Catholic Network, EWTN.
Look forward to that. I personally miss him very much.
Yeah.
He's a great friend. So it'll be good to have those.
It will be good to have him back in that longer format. So one other thing to look for in September is with Jim and Joy show. We're going to change a little bit of the format where one of the programs is going to be really the ability for people to just call in and ask questions and have Jim and Joy themselves, without a guest, just really present teachings and answer questions throughout the whole show. So I know a lot of people like that part and miss a little bit of that, being able to talk to our host directly like they can to you. So people can look for that as well in September. And then one thing I want to point out that we've been airing but people might be missing is we're kind of given the best of both worlds with EWTN radio and TV, and we do have EWTN radio programs on TV. One of those is Catholic Answers Live. So it's not a live program, but we kind of the best of the week's programs that they produce, we air on a weekly program on Saturdays.
Great.
And then Dr. David Anders' Call to Communion, a very popular show, and we air kind of the best of that once a week as well. And in the U.S., and we have a programming block on Saturdays where it's kind of an apologetics block where you can get Catholic Answers and David Anders. And so you have, people can catch them regularly on radio and on TV now. So those are some great programs that we're doing. And then finally, obviously, your program, Scripture and Tradition, is going really well. I know you have a lot of fans on Facebook following that, and I know you're just a few chapters away from completing your first book.
Yeah, we have 2 more chapters to go after this one.
So, but people can prepare for the next one, which is going to be the book Saved, the Bible Study for Catholics, and which is available through catalog. So people can stop prepping for that as well by ordering that ahead of time.
See, I figured if I talked about sin, better talk about salvation.
There you go. So.
Well, good. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it very much. And you can watch that World Meeting of Families on EWTN. Just go to EWTN.com/WMOF. EWTN.com/WMOF for a complete list of events and air times. And we'll be right back with tonight's guest, Dr. Ray Guarendi himself. So please stay with us. Thank you. Welcome back. Now, of course, I'm sure you've seen Dr. Ray Guarendi on EWTN before. If you haven't, you're missing a lot and better hold on to your seat. His humor and his frankness draw people in. And he's got a brand new book called Thinking Like Jesus, The Psychology of a Faithful Disciple. It's sure not to disappoint. I read it and enjoyed it very much. So please welcome Dr. Ray Guarendi.
Father.
How the heaven are you?
Last time I was here,
Yes.
I asked you, how many languages can you speak? I believe you said 9 or 10, but I hear word on the street it's higher than that now.
Yeah.
I heard 12.
Yeah.
12 languages.
Yeah.
Oh, nay, a way. I was driving from the airport. I was listening to you.
Yeah.
And the thing that struck me, when you come back from a break, you just flow with encyclopedic kind of knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, how does he do that? He seems to just know what to say about anything, And then, what is this? What is this yours?
What is it? I don't
You
know.
keep this back there to read during the break?
Well,
I thought this was in your head.
There are a lot of people that would like to put it on my head, but that's another problem.
You're unmasked.
There you go.
It's always a delight to be with you, Father.
Good to have you
always,
here.
always.
Good to have you here. And, you know, this, I enjoyed your new book.
You actually read it?
Well, yeah.
You look smarter. You didn't used to look that smart.
See? That just opened the doors. It's something that you and I have talked about before. And it's that the relationship that we have to psychology, especially as people of faith, we can go back to the 19th century when people like Freud had this antagonism to faith. And many of his disciples maintained that until the pretty much collapse of Freudianism in the 50s and 60s. But that tension sometimes exists. How do you see your Catholic faith and psychology relating to each other?
There are places where they collide, and there are places where they cooperate. Let me give you an example. How many times did Jesus say to forgive when he was asked?
Oh, 70.
70 times 7.
Only when Peter was bragging about
Bragging
7.
about he did 7. Yeah. I'm kind of up on those 3-time rabbis. What does that mean, 70 times 7? What's that mean? Fully? Completely? Always?
Yeah.
All right. In the book, I say, I don't believe I have to do that. From a psychological perspective, I do not have to forgive fully. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I believe at least half of the time, maybe more, that I'm feeling magnanimous about my Christian holiness and forgiving people, there was nothing to forgive. It was in my head. I misinterpreted what you did. I imputed bad motives to you that you didn't have. I got angry because of my hypersensitivity, and I thought, well, as a Christian, I better forgive. But in reality, the offense was here. There was no real offense.
This is part of our modern discourse. The way that people toss around, oh, he lied. We have to find out, did somebody actually lie by willfully choosing to deceive, or are they just ignorant and or misstated something? And I think you're right, that people jump to the worst possible conclusion.
And then I feel good about myself because I've forgiven, when in fact it was my hypervigilance to offense. Do you remember the song that Nat King Cole sang that was his signature song? I think it was in the 50s or 60s. You remember the name of the song?
No.
Unforgettable.
Unforgettable,
Remember?
yes.
Christians should sing a similar song. Unoffendable. I don't think, and this is another of the examples I talk about, we of all people should be least easily offended. What is offense, Father? You're not giving me my due? You're not respecting me? You're saying things that I feel are unfair? How dare you? I'm offended. As a Christian, am I to be offended by stuff like that? I'm not.
It strikes me that in the case of a lot of people who feel so easily offended, the prior difficulty is they start off with a narcissistic worldview, that everything is about me. And if it's not about me, well, I find that offensive.
I'm hypervigilant.
Yeah.
Hypervigilant. What about this one? I remember when I was in the evangelical world. In our Bible study, we always wrestled over this question. The question was, why do non-Christians get so upset at our Christian moral standards? The standard answer, well, somewhere down deep we convict them. They know that down deep that we're right, and this really irritates them and bothers them, but they don't admit it. And I remember thinking, Is that the only reason? Is it possible it isn't that my holiness bothers them? It could be that I'm a jerk.
There's that possibility.
Absolutely. How many times do I come across morally superior? How many times do I have, I'm holier than you, I'm better than you, I have better standards than you do? You wretch. Now, I may not say this, but it comes through in my message. Mm-hmm. And so it isn't my standards that are offending them, it's I'm being a jerk. Am I holy or am I a jerk?
This is one of the kinds of questions that people often ask when they're feeling persecuted. Well, they're persecuted. Well, it could be that you're just a fool.
Yeah, there's always, I want to interpret it as, well, you know, they're persecuting me because you know, I'm holy, I'm good, I have standards, and that's what it is. It's a threat. Well, it could be, but you may also be a prideful jerk about it.
Yep.
Always got to ask yourself a question, Father. Always, always, always. Mm-hmm. When somebody gives me feedback about me, one question, is it true? And you can't just slough it off in 3 seconds. No, that's not what I'm like. That's not true. You have to say, I got to take a hard look at myself.
That's right.
Hard look.
And there's not a lot of space given in our culture for that kind of honest self-reflection. There's a lot of noise in the culture by which people don't take time to be quiet and examine what's going on with their behaviors.
Do you know people in your world here that are lacking food and you need to give them food? In your just basic everyday social circle, you know people that are starving?
Not starving.
No, you don't. Do you know any that don't have clothes?
No.
No. Do you know any that don't have shelter?
Not
really.
In this neighborhood.
Not really. Yeah, not really. And I'm talking about our day-to-day social interaction with people. What can we offer them? What do we have to give my mother-in-law, to give those folks there, to give my wife? What do I have to give them? I have my personality. And as a Christian, I want to teach people how to be the most appealing person they can be. Mm-hmm. All too often, we Christians are not appealing. Mm-hmm. We're stiff and hyper pious in a threatening sort of way. Mm-hmm. I think people should look at us, and that's one of the focuses of the book. How can you be the most attractive person so that everybody in your family doesn't get along with that mother-in-law? Everybody. You're the only one that does. How? Well, you know how to flow with her. You know how to ignore her snarky remarks. Mm-hmm. You know, you treat her nice no matter what. You kiss her goodbye no matter what. Nobody wants to kiss her goodbye. Her breath stinks. Okay? But short of that, you're the one. And it's not necessarily a matter of forgiveness. It's a matter of your personality is just attractive. You're just attractive. And I've noticed a difference in you since you read the book.
Yeah?
Yeah, I noticed it.
Your book made it.
Yeah. A lot of people say that.
It's, I think some of the things that you pointed out in your book are that there are a lot of pop psychology theories that actually augment people's own egotism and are not in consonance, that they don't agree with our basic Christian principles. And because we're so much part of the culture, and that these self-centered principles are taken for granted at a cultural level, it's easy for us to slip into accepting them. And we need the challenge against them. That's one of the things I liked about your book. You challenge some of those assumptions.
Remember the song, I've Got to Be Me?
Oh.
Was it Sammy Davis Jr.? I've Got to Be Me?
No, that was Frank Sinatra.
I don't remember that, Father. My mother told me about it.
Yes. Maybe Sammy sing it too.
That is a shibboleth, a catchphrase of psychologists. Mm-hmm. I've got to be me. Well, what if being you is ugly? What if being you is opinionated?
Yes.
What if being you is argumentative? So it isn't good to always be me. There are no masks in my personality. Maybe there should be a few, because maybe the masks would make you a little bit more appealing of a human being.
Yes.
What about this one, Father? You've heard this psychological phrase? Comfort zone.
Yeah.
Comfort zone.
Time.
That's Father. I would like to visit your great aunt in the nursing home. It's really beyond my comfort zone. Okay, Father, I mean, the smell of urine, and you know, she doesn't even remember that I was there. And those places, I don't know, they make me feel anxious, because when I go there, I think, well, is this my mortality? So I hope you understand that I would really like to do it, but it really stretches my comfort zone. Should Christians have comfort zones, Father?
You know, I work with a bunch of friends who go to prisons, and you know, we go and evangelize with the inmates, the prisoners, and some of them don't want you to feel comfortable around them. They want to take away that as part of their defense, and yet we're called to be there.
That's it.
And that's more important. And by being regular guys with them, you know, there's been great evangelization. But yeah, the comfort zone is not where
Christians are asked to have a comfort zone this wide, basically. My wife wants me to go to her family gathering, you know, on the 18th. But I'll tell you, I know some of those people, and they just don't appeal to me. You know, they just don't appeal to me. And I know she wants me to go, and it would probably be the right thing to do. But just from a psychological perspective, it's not within my comfort zone. Do I have a right as a Christian to hide behind that?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so at all.
I don't think
this
so.
is something where we very much are called more to our cross zone and carrying
Very
the
good.
cross
I could have
zone.
used that as a chapter title.
Next time, consult.
Jeez. Yeah, but what you charge. There was no way I'm going to do it with what you charge.
Think of what it'll do for your profits.
That kind of profit?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
But that's one of the things, and we see. I'm really concerned about those parents who are, you know, the so-called helicopter parents who try to create a comfort zone for their children,
Emotional
that
bubble.
is hopefully safe and stuff. I wasn't raised that way. You know, if we wanted to go to the swimming pool at the park, Mom was not going to drive us there. You're going to get on your bike or you're going to walk.
And when you got back, you found she had moved.
Yeah, well,
They were
that
tough
was
in those days.
Actually, they waited until I joined the Jesuits. After I joined the Jesuits, then they moved to another state. But I found them anyway.
They got into a parent protection plan, but you located them.
But it's something that then creates. I was reading how one guy who is an interviewer for jobs, you know, and he said, if I'll take a 30% pay cut if you only send me orphans. Because the parents were coming with these college graduates to apply for the jobs. And the parents were the obnoxious ones as they try to protect and all this stuff. And this comfort zone notion is, I think, a crippling zone.
Well, the shrinks have made parents enormously skittish and insecure. If you push your kid out of his comfort zone, then what kind of untoward psychological ill effects? This kid's going to be sitting in the middle of some Springer show 22 years from now talking about you and the time you left him on the pot for 4 minutes too long, and you named him John because you were hoping it would help in the toilet training.
Yes.
You know.
And it didn't.
It didn't, not at all. Father, here's the question, too. You remember Abraham Maslow?
Sure.
Do you remember what he was known for?
his hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, and you didn't even have to go to your encyclopedia book to know that. You just right off the top of your head.
Yeah.
Do you notice how he called all of that needs? I need air. I need this water here. Food. And some could say that I need love. Do I need you to show me respect? Do I need you to recognize my talents? Do I need you to be positive to me? Are those needs? We've elevated everything to needs.
Yep.
What happens when a need isn't met? When my spouse, for example, doesn't meet my need for a certain level of communication, what happens?
Well, I'll have to just divorce her.
I get pretty resentful. Yeah, because I got a need. This is not a preference. This is not a desire. This is not a want. This is a need.
And I hear that plenty.
It's need talk.
I still think that a lot of those times that kind of need is actually an excuse. They found somebody else anyway, and they're looking and...
Well, you see that. Yeah, that is true. I got to justify. I had a psychologist friend say to me, anything can be a justification for something you really want to do.
Yep.
Anything.
That's right.
It's true. So very few of us still say, well, that's evil, that's wrong, that's terrible, but I'm going to do it anyway. Mm-hmm. Very few. I don't see that in any of my clients. Well, here's why I left my wife and 5 children. Now, you have to understand, she's a witch, okay? That's why I left her, and she spends money like crazy kind of thing. You know, somebody stole her credit cards a month ago, and I didn't report it because the thieves spend less than she does.
And yes, and so this and that sense of using psychological speak for justifying bad behavior,
very powerful,
because you don't want to call it bad.
That's right.
In a culture that is not only narcissistic, but also relativistic, that there's no such thing as objective evil or good, is how I feel about it.
What are the words that child development people use when they describe a kid's behavior? Do they say that you are to say, Butkus, that is bad? They don't let you say that. Here's what they say. Butkus, that's unacceptable, inappropriate, a poor choice. You see what we do? We morally antisepticide the like, oh yeah, annoying's big. Annoying's big among the adolescent set.
Yes.
You know, excuse me, Butkus, ice picking your sister's arm, inappropriate choices. Inappropriate choices. Take 2 stickers off your system. We'll give them back at the hospital when the bleeding stops. You know, I always want, did you ever have somebody go to confession like the politicians with you, Father?
I know nothing.
Okay. I'll do it. Bless me, Father. Mistakes were made. And I would like to apologize if God took something I did out of context, misinterpreted it, and became offended by it.
Yes.
I'm sorry for his sensitivity.
Yeah.
You absolve me?
Yeah. No, because you're still blaming the other person. You know, saying that they took offense at me. Again, it's this convolution that people go through.
Psychology gives you a lot of justifications. And as Christians, we can't latch on to some of those. The offendability factor, the hypervigilance to offense, the comfort zone, the need talk. Are you familiar with the love language concept? You ever heard that one?
I've heard of it, yes.
Essentially what it is they're theoretical concept. There's 5 love languages. And spouses, for example, would do well to express their love in the language the other spouse likes, like affection or time or service. And if you don't express your love in that language, let's say the guy keeps the house beautiful, but he doesn't kiss his wife as much as she would like to be kissed. Okay, so his expression of love language is service. Hers is, gee, I'd like a little more affection. He owes it to himself as a Christian to say, all right, how does she most want to be shown love? I want to know that, and I'll work on doing it that way. But here's the catch. He doesn't have the same right In other words, if his wife is very service-oriented, but she's not as affectionate as he would like her to be, does he have the right to say, well, yes, you do fine around the house, you keep the kids great, meals are always there, you're very good that way, but that doesn't matter, because you're not speaking to me in my love language, which is affection. You see you see the trickiness on that? Mm-hmm. Okay, I can demand that you speak to me that way, and if you don't, I devalue the way you do. That's not my right as a Christian.
Yeah. See, this is one of the other elements that ends up missing the mark here. The sense of the respect for the inherent dignity of the other person, and that I need to focus on their respect of them and their dignity, and not always bring it back to myself. Again, that's where the narcissism keeps coming back. And folks in your industry, in psychology, talk about the narcissism as being pandemic.
Yep. Do you know what self-esteem is related to? The research says it's what it's related to.
What's that?
Nothing. It's not related to anything. But those theories caught on and said you have to have a real solid self-esteem. Can you imagine our Lord gone up to Peter? Simon, now there for a moment, I had toyed with changing your name to Peter, but I decided against it. I didn't know what that would do to your self-esteem. You know, you've always seen yourself as a Simon. I go changing your identity now, but I'll tell you what, I've talked to my father, and he and I agree you have a future in this operation. If you can conceive it, you can believe it. If you can believe it, you can achieve it. 12 more weeks of Tony Robbins management courses, Simon, and you will head this operation. St. Paul apparently didn't know a whole lot about self-esteem because he said, what? Esteem others more highly than yourselves.
Right.
Whoa! What kind of psychology classes did he have?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably something that had to do with more with Jesus than Freud.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, look, we have to take a little break. I want to, again, let people know about your book, which is called Thinking Like Jesus, The Theology of a Faithful Disciple, by Dr. Ray Guarendi. You can get it from EWTNRC.com, and the number for it is 80626. I recommend it. It's an easy read. It's not, a lot of...
and for guys, it's scratch and sniff.
Yeah, there you go. No, it's not. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes. We want to get some of your comments and questions and those of our audience, so please stay with us. Right. You ready for some questions?
If they're true false, I'm better at those.
Okay. Well, we'll see what we can find. We're going to let the people ask their own questions, though. Anastasia, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Father. How are you tonight?
Well, where are you calling from?
Ohio.
Great. And your question?
Well, I have a question. Maybe this is covered in the book. I was curious about that. When you find yourself in a conversation where you're exchanging ideas, there's no real truth, you might say. There's no factual evidence one way or the other. And you're basically at opposite ends. You've got two different points of view, and you're both very strongly and feel very right about your question or your opinions. How can you discuss that intellectually and calmly without it getting into a big escalating into an argument.
There's a lot of that today. Yeah, good question.
Very simple answer, Anastasia. Leave the room. People walk into my office and they tell me all kinds of things that are irrational, perhaps wretched, nonsense. Anastasia, what do I have to do? Do you think I sit there and say, oh, what? No, let me give you my opinion on that, okay? I'm gonna tell you how I see it. Because they'd walk out. Here's what I have to do. How did you come to that conclusion? Okay, so if you think that, then does that follow? In other words, I got to get inside their head. And that's what you have to do. If somebody's given you a perspective that's out here, rather than battle them, I say, you say, get inside their head.
Exactly.
Figure out why they're thinking this way. Ask them to explain their process. Because what you'll find is most people have not thought through why they think the way they do.
Yep.
They think in cliches, very shallow surface stuff. Yep. Get them to explain it, and a little bit later they may realize I didn't make as much sense as I thought. I had a friend one time, we were in Bible study, and he was coming into the Catholic Church, and he was antagonistic towards the Catholic Church. So I was asking him these questions, and it looked like he was being stubborn, digging his heels in. On the way home, he told his wife, did I sound as stupid as I think I did? He's Catholic now. Yeah. He's a stupid Catholic, but he's Catholic now.
Did his wife say yes or no?
She already thinks he was stupid no matter what.
Okay. We have another question. Sir, where are you from?
From New York.
Great. Welcome. And your question?
Thank you. I'm a catechist for 8th grade confirmation students, and more often than not I get blank stares and silence when I'm trying to engage them. Do you have any suggestions how I can get them to participate more in the class?
Father, you take a lead in on that one. Go ahead.
All right. I had a class like that. As a matter of fact, it was when I was in grad school in Nashville, and they had driven off the previous teacher after a short time. She just couldn't take them. And so the pastor said, could you do something with these kids? So I started off, and at the time, in Nashville, this isn't the case now, but there was a whole new spate of very vicious anti-Catholicism going on. They tried to blow up one of the churches during ordination. They cut the head off of a statue of Our Lady in another church, and they set another church on fire. So it was rough times. And I said, well, there's some folks out there going door to door even, and they'll say that you and your mama are going to hell because she baptized you as an infant. And they said, who said my mama's going where? They might argue with their mother, but, somebody else can't. And so I got them riled. And after they're riled, I said, well, you can get mad, or you can know what you're talking about. And so then we used studying about baptism as an entree into things, and they're riled enough to sort of get going.
Is that the night your tires got slashed?
No.
Okay.
No. That was another night.
Okay, it's another group you got riled.
Yeah.
I have found that kids don't know what we think they know. We take for granted that they even know Old Testament, New Testament. They don't know anything, and nobody's really explained to them the moral stances of the church. Mm-hmm. Why? They don't know why. They don't know why the church teaches what they teach on divorce, abortion, homosexuality. They don't know. So I've found that the best way to get them to speak up is to say, I'll take any questions you got. What don't you understand? What has always bothered you? And typically somebody will ask a benign question. Well, I don't know why they say Jesus is God and then they say he's the Son of God. Some benign question.
Yep.
But I have found that they just start pouring out stuff because nobody's really given them any kind of explanation. We no longer live in my grandmother's world where if the priest said it, that's the way it is, and you don't argue.
Right.
Not anymore.
Right.
They don't know why. And
it is good to find out what their questions are. Again, it's another age than the 80s in Nashville. And I would probably take a tack more like that, finding out what their questions are, and meeting them at a place where it's informal enough for you to ask them what's on their mind. That's not bad, because we get questions on the air all the time. People don't know those basic questions, so they have to. The other thing about it is have to bring the hay down so the goats can get it. Don't talk over their heads.
Is that theological?
Yes. Yeah. At least in Texas. We have another caller. Hello, Stephen.
Yes. Hi, Father Mitch. Hi, Dr. Ray.
Hi. What's your question tonight?
My question is in regards to my daughter. She's in her mid-20s. She claims to be bisexual. And I've tried to explain to her that type of behavior is morally wrong. However, her response to me basically is that it's her life, her body. She can do with it what she wants to. I've talked to a couple of professionals who told me that I need to practice acceptance. Now, I don't want to run her way, and I'm trying to persuade her to come back to the Catholic way of teaching. Can you give me a few pointers on how to talk to her?
She has probably chucked the whole thing. In other words, it isn't that she says, I'm bisexual. She also says, and I don't buy what the Catholic Church teaches either, Dad. So your attempt to get her to explain it and understand it in Catholic Church teaching is probably not going to work right now. What I would do is explore with her, how did you decide this? How did you come to this conclusion? Was there ever a time when you were solely interested in boys? Is this something relatively new? Is there one person that you formed a relationship with? I would focus on it like that for now. And then the one thing you can't do, Dad, and I know the temptation is this, I talk about it in the book. Loving is not condoning. If you love this girl, if nothing has changed in your love and your attitude towards this girl, she's your daughter, you're not condoning her lifestyle. You're not even condoning it if you meet the person that she supposedly says she wants to be with. You're not condoning it. She knows where you stand. She knows how you believe what the church teaches. It's not new. You raised her for 24 years. But you got to keep that close love connection there. I have a son who is same-sex attraction. My wife and I have to love him no matter what, because that's the only chance we have of getting him to look back at the Catholic Church if and when he decides he wants to be chaste. That's all we've got. He knows where we're at. So love does not mean condone. When our Lord ate with the tax collectors, Father, do you think he told them, well, all right, I'm going to eat with you this time, but you guys don't straighten up, don't invite me back here?
Yeah.
Do you think he did that?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No, I think they just got the Pharisees all upset that he was doing it. Yeah, I think that that's something to be alert to, and also, there may be a discussion that you have about that. This is my body. I can do it. You might want to ask her how much she had to say with making her body. She has something to say about care of it, but God, you and your wife had a lot more with it coming into being than she did. And so where's this sense of possession of my body as if it's my tool, as if it's something I own?
It's the new dualism.
Exactly. This is, I'm this person, and I'm body and soul. And there's also the same argument that'll be used by a drug addict who's killing him or herself by doing what my body can put in it what I want. And you may want to ask too, make sure that she's taking care of herself, because if there's promiscuity involved, which was sort of necessarily the case in bisexuality, there's also great risk of very unhealthy behavior going on. and a variety of diseases that have to be checked for. And it's not that we want to say, well, see, you mess around, God's going to punish you. It's not about punishment. It's playing with matches, you're going to get burned.
It's biological reality.
Yeah. And so that's why 25% of our society is infected. And the more promiscuous you are, the more likely to be infected you are. And that these are concerns that you have, and you're willing to help, take care of her. But you also say this is a miserable kind of thing to have happen to you as well. So
15 years ago, Father, I had a relatively small percentage of adolescents come to my attention that were sexually confused. Relatively small. Mm-hmm. In the last 15 years, it has absolutely exploded. Transgender confusion was something I didn't see in the very earlier days of my clinical work. Yeah. So the question has to be raised. Is it now that society has become more open and accepting that people who always had these thoughts, feelings, attractions, desires are now coming out? Or is there, like everything else, a bit of a contagion, a bit of a social component to this? My daughter, one time when she was at work, she came home and she said, Daddy, there are 6 boys where I work who say they have same-sex attraction. 6? I don't know how many. She said, oh, I know 10 or 12. See, we're talking a 50% rate here. Now, you know, Father, the stats on same-sex attraction, about 1 to 3%. Yeah. That's all the best stuff is 1 to 3%.
Yeah, somewhere, usually right around 2%.
If you're getting a 50% number, the question that has to be asked, are there other factors playing into this? If somebody commits suicide in a school, in my county, we had 6 suicides in a high school over a span of a couple, 3 months. The shrinks come rushing in because they are worried, rightfully so, about contagion. Following this behavior that now becomes an option. Mm-hmm. Why have we not assessed the ongoing sexual confusion as at least having a component of contagion?
A classic example of that would be a couple years ago, there was a big story of how a number of young girls in one particular high school all wanted to get pregnant, while they're still in high school because it became the in thing to do. And it's exactly that this becomes something that has an approval and a notoriety associated with it. And without paying attention to the problems that flow from this behavior, notoriety is there, but a lot of other problems show up as well. We have another question from our studio audience. Where are you from?
I'm Steve from Birmingham, and I have a question for Father Larry Richards.
Steve, Father Larry's not here.
Oh, well, I must be at the wrong show because I thought Dr. Ray was opening for Father Larry.
No, you don't understand. The show is Living Right with Dr. Ray. It's not Living Mary with Father Larry.
Oh.
Okay? He is a guest on my show. I'm the star. He's not the star.
Oh, well, that's not what I heard, but anyway, I'll just tune in to Open Line Thursday with Father Larry Richards tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, he must have gotten through to Father Larry to find out that you weren't the star.
I don't know. I think Father Larry's starting his own publicity campaign.
I think so. Yes.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Boy, everybody wants to get in.
Everybody wants to get in. Yeah, just
But this one of the areas where, for a number of years now, we've talked about raging hormones as the excuse for a lot of sexual acting out, and I think with that then comes this notoriety and political correctness of certain groups, and this becomes problematic.
You want an interesting, scary stat before we go to the question?
Sure.
I saw, this was some years ago, 800 sexologists, okay, people who study these patterns and things. And they asked them, if you knew that your partner was HIV infected, would you still have relations if you took precautions? How many do you think said they would?
I'm going to assume good sense, and they all said they would not. 0.
And that somebody raised the question, then why are you telling kids to do this?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting that the increased sales of various prophylactics and the birth control pill follows the same curve of increase as does abortion and out-of-wedlock birth and STDs. Ma'am, where are you from?
I'm from Atlanta, and I have a question about helicopter parents. It's a different world now. How do you keep children safe without hovering?
It's an interesting balance.
Do you mean physical or emotionally safe? See, the question on helicopter parents is oftentimes this emotional bubble that I put over the kid. I don't want him to experience frustration. I don't want him to play right field in Little League and get to bat 9th when the other kid gets to play shortstop and bat 3rd. Okay, that's emotional hovering.
Abductions.
Interestingly enough, the most recent statistic I saw on this, now it may be a little different now, the number of children, now they cite the stat 1.5 million, 2 million children, missing. Do you know how many were stranger abducted in 1 year within the U.S.?
No.
Now this was probably in the 90s. Stranger abducted, not ex-spouses, not runaways. 50.
50.
Yeah. But the media creates the reality. Mm-hmm. Yes, in fact, parents are far more cautious. Remember, you used to go out and play all day and come home, and your parents, me too. Okay. Yeah. And now, in all likelihood, kids are probably still as safe, but we won't do it because we're scared.
Right. Well, I'm afraid something we also can't do is keep going on because we've run out of time.
I have more to say.
I know, but not here. And so may the Lord bless all of you and keep you, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And we can bring Dr. Ray not only on this show, but on his own programs and co-starring with Father Larry and all this rest, only because this network is brought to you by you. So please keep us in between your gas bill, electric bill, and cable bill, because we have a lot of bills to pay too. Especially in these summer months. So God bless you and thank you very much. And thank
Father,
you, Dr.
Can't
Ray.
thank you enough. Here, did you need this for the next show?
No.
You sure you don't want this?
God bless the thanks.